thank you very much. And we throw this now to someone who I always love listening to, the delightful Kaylin Ireland.
Oh, shucks. Thank you. So my first pick for this is one of my favorite movies from my childhood. It is actually older than I am, not to make anybody in this group feel old because I know I am the youngest, but sorry. I have such a profound love for 80s fantasy movies, and especially like anything Jim Henson, anything just like really whimsical. So I grew up watching things like Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal and, all of that stuff. So the one that I really want to delve into is The Neverending Story because it was absolutely my favorite film when I was a child. I don't even remember how I got into it. It was just on TV. I ended up watching it and I was just like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And of course, my parents loved it too. They were also really big into, all the fantasy stuff and everything. Um, my dad is like a big dragon person, so anything with dragons in it, he's gonna love.
Mhm.
I'm the same way. I absolutely got that trait from him. So, we love Falcor. I actually have on my desk, I need to finish painting him, but one of my partners 3D printed an
Oh,
articulated Falcor.
Oh,
I need to finish painting him. I like started on his head, but
that's
I
cute.
haven't done more than that. But he's cute. And this is all printed in one piece, which is
That's awesome.
insane. Like, can you imagine in the 80s this technology existing? It's
right.
crazy. But he's my buddy. So obviously very big fan of it. That same partner and I ended up going through a never-ending story binge of like listening to the song a lot and watching the movie the year that it was on Stranger Things. I can't remember which season that was off the top of my head. I want to say it was like the second one or something like that. But just such a love for this movie. It's probably one of the films I've seen the most, dozens of times. I don't know how many, because when I was a kid, I would watch it anytime it was on TV. I'm pretty sure we had it on VHS somewhere. Um, but yeah, absolutely always loved it. And I think that the reason that it appealed to me so much is I was very severely bullied when I was a kid. I was an undiagnosed neurodivergent kid. I was a closeted queer kid. There were lots of reasons that people just kind of gave me shit growing up. Um, so the film starts with the protagonist being bullied by these boys at school, and they literally chase him until he dives into a dumpster to get away from them. And while the hazing that I got at school was not quite like that because girls are different, it was on that level. I never got a moment's peace. I would
Mhm.
leave home, I would go to school, I would get hassled basically every day. I'd come home, I'd cry, I'd read a book. So, kid going into bookstore after this, discovering this beautiful, beautiful tome. And shop owner trying to be like, no, kid, don't read it. It's not a good idea. Don't do it. It's not for you. I got the kid to read the book. Is just so very much how a lot of adults in my life were when I was a kid. They would like get me into things that ended up being very good for me. Unfortunately, no magical tomes that have me narrate a story that is actually happening yet. I'm not giving up hope. It might happen. I'm in my 30s. I'm not giving up yet. I've still got a lot of life to live. Um,
I haven't
but
given up on it yet.
but yeah, um, the story means so much to me actually that I also have like a pendant with the Orin from it, the Ouroboros with the snake eating itself, and I actually really want to get that as a tattoo. I've got a tattoo on one of my shoulders, and I want that on the other one. Um, and it's just one of those films that I think is like comfort cinema in the sense that I always feel good watching it. It gives me the warm fuzzies. Except for that traumatic scene we all know about that I won't go into depth about, but it involves a swamp and a horse.
Yeah.
That's all I need to say. That absolutely traumatized me as a child, especially because, with my ADHD brain, every time I watched it, I forgot that he gets the horse back at the end. So it traumatized me all over again the first several times I saw it. But I still just absolutely loved the ever-loving shit out of that movie. And like the puppetry in it is phenomenal. All of the practical effects are just really incredible to me, gorgeous. Um, I really love stuff from that era, like in the, like 80s and in the 90s when there was still a lot of really good stuff being made with really amazing puppetry. It's just an art form that I really admire a lot because I know how much work goes into it, having like grown up a theater kid and knowing a lot of people who like do puppetry stuff in Atlanta. I know people who work for the Center of Puppetry Arts, things like that. And it's just amazing to me. And of course, the soundtrack is absolutely killer. It is so 80s, it is painful. I love it. I actually, one time when I was traveling, heard the Neverending Story song come on. I was in Ecuador, actually, in Guayaquil, and just like outside of a random chocolate shop, and just that song came on. I was just like, and of course, I had to start singing along and just looking like an absolute tourist. It was amazing. But yeah. 80s fantasy movies will make me do absolutely ridiculous things in public I would not normally do. So that is one of my all-time favorite films. It was one of the first ones I wrote down when I started thinking of ideas for this episode. So definitely very big fan of it.
Great choice. Great choice. I even though you don't want to reference that one scene, I have to say
That one scene.
among the greatest cosplays I have ever seen.
Same. I've seen that one.
You've seen that one at Dragon Con. Absolutely brilliant.
I have.
There's
That's
people
terrible.
are taking pictures,
It is
people
still
are
too
praising
soon.
him, and then there's people like too soon. And you're like, too soon?
That movie
Old.
is 40 years old. It came out in 1984.
soon.
It is still too soon.
That's right. That is
Still
right.
too soon. God.
Thank you so much. And now we go to Mr. Putting on the Ritz there, Keith.
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking comfort foods, which I had to actually sit around and think a little bit because of our kind of niche approach. Because if I was going to go with my absolute number one comfort food, to be Star Trek II Wrath of Khan. And then, you
I
know,
love
and
that.
then there's like
good.
I would have been permitted.
Superman. No. We've already established.
Okay,
No
but
Star
come
Trek.
on, Star Trek.
But you know,
Okay.
and then I'm going like Superman, 2001, Close Encounters with the Third Kind. These
Oh,
are
great.
those. That's, you know, I return to that bowl all the time. But those are just a little too mainstream. So I actually had I had three as an option, which was like so I kind of narrowed it down to three. And like yeah, one putting on the Ritz back here kind of gives it away, but you know, now this is a classic, you know, right? Okay, so you know, you've got one that's a classic, got another one that's a classic, but it's a classic that predates me, and then I got a modern day not classic that I checked on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's sitting. It's technically fresh, but the audience score is split. It's 49%. So so that means it's a polarizing one, but it's one I absolutely cannot. I mean, anytime if I'm just sitting around in the house, I just want something going, I'm going to pop that baby on and I'm going to chuckle and giggle through the whole thing. So here's the thing. Which one we want to start with?
Please
Classic,
start with your background.
predate classic, or go with the modern not classic? You want me to start with this one? Okay, well, Young Frankenstein. Not even going to keep it a secret. Young Frankenstein. It was the first DVD I bought when I won a DVD player in a contest in '97, and so I didn't have anything. So I had to go to, you know, when we had a DVD shop at the mall, I think it was Suncoast, and I walked in there to buy me something for my new DVD player. And yeah, I walked out with Young Frankenstein in my hands. I have it on Blu-ray now and on digital. It's one of those. It's never not going to be a part of me. Before that, I had it on video cassette, right? And it carries with it a nice memory for me, because I would have been in December '74. That would have put me freshly 8 years old. So yeah, a real specific time of my life, because I was also 8 the following summer when Jaws came out. That's the, you know, so it was a very important age point of like Jaws traumatized me for life. This thing gave me sophisticated Mel Brooksian senses of humor. You know, Okay, Young Frankenstein. I knew about this thing a year before it came out because I gotten the previous school year a Scholastic book on the classic movie monsters. And, each page had a,
Mhm.
Phantom of the Opera and then a little write up on it, and I had ordered that and I got that. And, that was my first time ever saw the image of Blackula. I was like, oh, there's Blackula. Never knew about that. And I was looking at that. And then you get to there was also a page where they showed you how to make a Frankenstein mask, where you could create this paper mache forehead and everything that shaped like that using a paper bag from the grocery store. That all that. And then you get to
Yeah.
the very, very end of this book, and there's a full page write up on young Frankenstein. Peter Boyle's face is right there, in the zippers in his neck, and it's an announcement. It's basically an announcement. This thing's coming next year. So I mean, I was just sitting on bated breath. I mean, I was a monster kid, and this was a monster movie I gotta see, because this looks hysterical. That zipper, when you're 8 years old, that's
Mhm.
hysterical, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, it's funny to anybody, but when you're 8, that's really funny stuff. And Frankenstein is bald. The monster's bald. Ha ha ha. That's hilarious, right? Um, those of us out there that struggle with hair loss probably don't think that's funny at all. But anyway, all of that to be said, I was looking forward to this movie like you wouldn't believe. And so I have that core memory of my dad taking me to see that thing, and sitting in the theater with my dad. So there, and my dad then is also who bought me the Blu-ray later. So there's this long
Well,
connection here. For Christmas, got me the Mel Brooks box set. So
nice.
I always just assume everybody has seen Young Frankenstein. It's become part of the culture, and
Mhm.
so I feel like I'm probably cheating even doing this one, because it's so much a part of the pop culture. I mean, if it's probably I mean, I think it just gains in popularity every year. It's just so brilliant. It's one of my perfect movies. Opening scene to the closing scene, everything works. Every bad joke works, every good joke works, every visual gag works, every performance works, every effect works. It is perfectly done. The it the ad libs are work. I mean, it's perfectly cast, perfectly shot. The cinematography on it is amazing. For those who just need the reminder, we're talking modern day, quote unquote, I mean, modern day ish, with dealing with the assumption that the universal world of Frankenstein and Dr. Frankenstein exists, and this takes place in that world in the 70s at that point. And it's you're picking up with Frankenstein's great 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 grandson, and you get wordplay immediately. He's embarrassed by the fact that he's a Frankenstein, so he demands everybody pronounce it Frankenstein, very pretentiously, right? This
Roderick
is
Frankenstein.
yes, yeah, just so pretentious. And the brilliant Gene Wilder there with his crazy hair and stark black
Mhm.
and white. I mean, you guys, everybody knows this thing. You just chuckle from the beginning to the end. I mean, we get to see him in his place as a professor, teaching students. I mean, that scene right there. I'm again. I can go all the way back to 8 years old, boy, when he's got that old man up there and he's trying to show off to the students about our natural reflexes. It still makes me laugh, right? He hits that knee, that leg goes, start knee him in the crotch, just keep knee him in the crotch. I mean, it's childish humor, but it's so funny because it's played so straight by everybody on screen, and that's what sells it. You know, the performances
Mhm.
would sell it. But you know, I mean, then we have to go to the will reading. He inherits this castle, and boy, it must have just when he inherits the Frankenstein fortune, it's like his blood started boiling or something, and all the crazy mad scientists that he'd been shoving down for so many years and some years, it just all bubbles right up, right? He can't not just immediately go and start pulling the same stunts as his crazy ancestors, and it's just so funny. Marty Feldman as Igor, you know, it, I mean, it's just so good. I love the authenticity of the movie as well. Part of what sells it is that the sets are just perfect. Some of the sets are the actual sets that he dug out of mothballs that were
Yeah.
used in the original
Yeah.
Frankenstein. I mean, it's just, I mean, a perfect storm of concept, uh, execution, and you know, and just the timing of it, because probably if he had waited 10 more years to do something like this, he probably wouldn't have been able to find those things. So you know, the idea even in 74, or when I guess he would have filmed in 73, of filming in black and white was really pushed back against by the studios, from what I understand. Wanted him filming it in color, and you know,
It had to
it,
be in black and white.
it
Yeah.
really
I
had to be
can't
black and
imagine it in
white,
color. It would just
Yeah.
right?
would
It looked
Right?
not
terrible.
it would not work.
I mean, I almost kind of would like to see some jerk colorize a couple of scenes just to show how awful it would have
Mhm.
looked.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been so garish, and it wouldn't have had any of I hesitate to say the reality, but there's that in black and white. There is a sense of reality,
It's
even
an
though it's,
authenticity.
yeah, even though
Mhm.
there's an inauthenticity in the fact that it's black and white, but
Mhm.
somehow, because I think it forces us to see the sharp contrasts so much, you know, I think it just triggers something in our brain, and it just feels more real. You know, it's the difference between watching the first 5 seasons of Andy Griffith Show and then the
Mhm.
next after, when it goes color. You know, there's an authenticity in those first 5 seasons that feels real, even though you know they're on a set and all that. But as soon as it goes to color, boom, the unreality of it just slaps you in the face with every scene. So yes, I am grateful that we got young Frankenstein in black and white. I want to mention Cloris Leachman. Her
Mhm.
performance is
Mhm.
so funny, you know, and there's so many classic Mel Brooks gags in here, recurring bits and things like that. But it's like you know, he got the perfect ingredients this time around. The and it when Kenny Mars comes on and starts, you know, doing that with the,
Yeah.
and you know, if you know the Universal movies, you know, and you know what they're parodying, it's so funny. But you don't have to know it. That's another brilliant thing about it.
Mhm.
You don't have to know that, but if you see that and you know that, and at 8 I already had seen them multiple times. You know, it's just it's a side splitter.
Yeah.
But you know, I could show this was probably the first Frankenstein movie my kids saw, you know, before he ever went back and saw the other stuff. And it's just as funny.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're talking comfort food. I can't imagine anything more comfort food for me than Young Frankenstein.
Hell yeah.
Great
Yeah.
choice.
Fun
The
fact,
most
that was actually
quotable
one of the
comedy
things I
film
had
I
on my
think
list
ever.
too.
You know,
What was that, Richard?
it's the most quotable comedy film ever.
Oh,
other,
yeah.
other than maybe
It is,
Monty
it
Python and
is.
the Holy
Yeah.
Grail.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
just like when I was a kid, I was a little bit older than you. I guess I was 12, and saw it in a theater in LA. And it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. It was,
Yeah, it
it's still,
was.
it makes me laugh just hearing you talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
Just
something
like
that,
grinning, imagining all my favorite scenes.
something that would define comfort cinema for me is something that you own on every format. Something you
Yeah.
bought from video to
Yeah.
DVD,
Oh yeah.
Blu-ray, you know,
Yeah,
and that's one of
that
them.
is one
Yeah.
that's gone VHS to DVD,
Yeah.
Blu-ray, and
Yep.
digital.
We got the
Yeah.
collector bug for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank
And
you
that's
very
a
much. That's a great
fantastic,
choice.
fantastic Son of Satan shirt you have, by the way.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, yeah,
Thank
wow.
you. Yes.
My favorite Marvel character.
Ugh,
Really?
Oh
he's
yeah,
he's
pretty cool.
never been done justice, but
identify
the
with him.
character himself is actually
Yeah.
I liked
it's a great
Hellstrom.
concept.
We'll
Yeah,
talk
I do
about it
too.
another time.
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
like
I do
this
too,
guy.
but he's never been done fully the justice that
Right.
he needs to be. Because you know, this is our famous sidebars, but the concept of a human who's the son of the
Literally.
devil and is committed to fighting against his father, and yet he has that same nature that keeps coming out, and you know, is just
I thought,
the concept is just so
Yeah,
basic.
it's great.
but it's brilliant, and I
Yeah,
think
it's brilliant.
they worked around it in the TV show so that
Right.
by
Yeah, with the serial
well, they
killer thing,
advertised
you
it
know.
like a serial killer.
But
Mm.
then,
But
you know,
by
they
that
did
last
it.
episode, you know who his
Yeah.
father is.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm disappointed we didn't get a second season on that.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, go
Well,
ahead, Bill.
Thank you very much. And we move over to Chuck. But you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I've been kind of battling the ornery dog out here and trying to keep
That's
him
fine.
Battling it.
damped down a little. The ornery cat is a little more manageable.
Yeah.
All right. So the first movie I'm going to talk about is one where frequently I get asked, what is it with you in this movie? Why do you keep dredging up this movie? God almighty. And it is 1974. Yeah, there are two remakes, but 1974 is The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Mhm.
And I kind of had a long history with this. I lived in Europe from 74 to 75. My parents on the plane over bought the novel and read it on the way over. And afterwards, I started sneaking peeks at it and reading it myself, and didn't see it until several years later. But it's kind of just been a weird staple that I keep revisiting every now and again. And basically, the story has this group of hijackers led by Robert Shaw, uh, Martin Balsam, who turns out to be a disgruntled former subway motorman, and Hector Elizondo. Trying to think of who the fourth guy is. Earl Hinsman, I think. And they hijack a subway train and hold it hostage for a big $1 million payout. I think in the subsequent remakes, I think the amount of money they ask for is a little more, but in this one, it's $1 million.
Inflation.
And yeah, and New York, of course, a crying poor mouth. They don't want to give in, and you get Walter Matthau as this transit cop with a kind of or this transit detective inspector as and the always reliable Jerry Stiller is his sidekick, and they're kind of slowly trying to unravel it and trying to get the city to give in and give these hijackers the money. And you see all the wheels of power kind of going back and forth on this thing. You have this mayor who's a basket case. He's got the flu. He's a friggin' nightmare. He's very narcissistic, and he's got all these money men he's trying to tangle with, and because the city's broke, they haven't got the money, and all this other stuff. And when you read the book actually comes at it from the same angle. It's like they have the mayor is, I think the narrative goes like the mayor had led a very sheltered childhood and never learned to swear convincingly, and so in the whole thing he's like shit and fuck, god damn it. They capture him perfectly. But what makes this movie comfort food to me? I think basically over the years, what I've grabbed from it is I basically regard it as a comedy. I in prepping for this, I kind of spot watched a couple of the remakes. The one you probably haven't heard of which was from the '90s, had I think uh, I'm blanking on his
Ethan
name.
Hawke.
No, not Ethan Hawke. Um,
He was in one of them. No, he was in the remake of Assault on Precinct 13. Sorry.
yeah.
Got my
that's it.
remakes mixed up. Whoops.
Yeah. Oh God. Second iteration of Battlestar Galactica.
Like, I don't know.
Um,
Edward James Olmos.
Edward James Olmos. Yes. Sorry.
Hey, awesome.
So bad with names. I blank on names all the time. But he played the Walter Matthau role. I think Vincent D'Onofrio played the head hijacker. And it pretty much worked from the same exact screenplay, except kind of left something out for me. The third movie, which starred Denzel Washington and John Travolta, I kind of barely even recognized as being the same story. But
I didn't recognize it as a film when it came out. I just refused.
yeah,
I understand.
And
I kind
like
of support
Denzel.
that decision. Yeah. No slaps on any of the actors, but
No, I don't like Travolta. But go ahead.
okay, I'm back and forth. But
The original.
yes, the original. Anyway, I think what hit me with that one that didn't hit me with the other two was just the dripping sarcasm. I kind of regard it as a comedy, but just dripping sarcasm that just permeates the whole thing, and just the banter throughout it is just classic New York. And if you're ever in New York, at least pre-Giuliani, pre-gentrification, seemed to have this big old attitude, and just most people I've known from New York kind of pack this whole attitude. They've got a bit of an edge to them, and the movie's just got the edge in spades. And just the characters are just kind of unrepentantly, bashing each other. You're kind of nasty. There's kind of an irreverence to it. It's almost like you've got this whole thing running throughout the whole hostage negotiation, where the mayor does not want to get out and make a speech about this. He does not want to do a press conference. At one point, you see these cops who were trying to get this money down into the subway, these big bags of money, and they're wiping out their cars and they're getting in accidents. And they're encountering all kinds of difficulty. And somewhere in there, you just hear, and he's just saying, I don't want to do a press conference. Everybody's got to boo me. At some point, they're getting into the subway, and the cops look around and they hear this wash of boos erupting from down the street. Oh, Jesus Christ, the mayor's here. But the entire film is like that. It's got that kind of an attitude. So I guess that's what makes it comfort food to me.
That's a lot of energy.
Yeah, a lot of energy.
Matthew was on a roll with dramatic roles in that period. He was just amazing.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
Thank you.